Some stories, they just get under your skin. They settle deep in the bones of a place. The story of the Hatfields and the McCoys is one of those. It's a tale of two families living on opposite sides of a river that was more than just water. It was a border, a line drawn in the dirt between West Virginia and Kentucky, the tug fork of the Big Sandy River. On one side, you had the Hatfields of West Virginia, a family with some money, some power. They were led by a man they called Devil Anse Hatfield. On the other side, in Kentucky, were the McCoys. They were a proud family, maybe not as well off, but just as tough. Their patriarch was Randolph Old Randall McCoy. These folks were neighbors, but they weren't friends. They lived in a rugged, beautiful, and unforgiving part of America, the Appalachian Mountains. This land is ancient. It keeps secrets. It shapes the people who call it home. Life here was hard. You relied on your family, your kin, your name meant everything. Every fire starts with a spark. For the Hatfields and McCoys, there were a few. The biggest one, maybe, was the Civil War. Families along the tug fork split apart. The Hatfields, mostly for the Confederacy. Devil Anse Hatfield, a captain. The Logan Wildcats home guard, they fought for the South. The McCoys, across the river in Kentucky, had a different view. Many McCoys fought for the Union. Asa Harmon McCoy, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. Asa returned from war, not welcomed as a hero. He was seen as a traitor. He'd worn the blue in a place that bled gray. Not long after, he was found shot dead. Confederate sympathizers were blamed, maybe led by Jim Vance, Devil Anse's uncle. No one was brought to justice. The law looked the other way. For the McCoys, a deep wound. It planted a seed of bitterness, a debt of blood they never forgot. After the hog trial, the fragile peace was broken for good. The McCoys felt wronged, and their anger simmered. Bill Staton, the man whose testimony had cost them the case, became a target. Two of Randolph McCoy's nephews, Sam McCoy, Paris McCoy, got into a fight with him. It was supposed to be just another mountain squabble, but it ended with Bill Staton shot and killed. Sam McCoy was tried for the murder, but he was acquitted. The court called it self-defense. The next terrible chapter happened a few years later, on an election day in 1882. It was a hot day, and the whiskey was flowing freely. Three of Randolph McCoy's sons, Tolbert Farmer Randolph Jr., got into a drunken argument with Devil Anse's brother, Ellison Hatfield. The words turned to shoving, and then Tolbert McCoy pulled a knife. At the heart of any war, you find the leaders. For the Hatfields, that man was William Anderson Hatfield, better known as Devil Anse. He was a formidable figure. Tall and imposing, with a piercing gaze, he commanded respect and fear throughout the valley. He wasn't just a brawler, he was smart and ambitious. He built a successful timber business from nothing, employing dozens of men, Hatfields and others. He was a natural leader who knew how to use his power and influence. On the other side of the river stood Randolph McCoy, Old Randall. He was a different kind of man. Where Devil Anse was a booming presence, Randall was hardened by loss and what he saw as constant persecution. He was a farmer, a patriarch who saw his family suffer time and time again. He lost a brother in the war, lost his property in disputes, and then, devastatingly, lost his children to the feud's violence. The feud reached its horrifying peak on New Year's night, 1888. Led by the ruthless Jim Vance Cap Hatfield, a posse of Hatfields crossed the tug fork into Kentucky. They surrounded Randolph McCoy's cabin and set it on fire. The McCoys scrambled out of the burning home. The Hatfields opened fire. Randolph's daughter Alifair was shot and killed as she fled. His wife Sarah was brutally beaten and left for dead. Randall escaped into the woods. Two of his children were murdered that night. The New Year's massacre was an act of pure terror. It turned public opinion and the law decisively against the Hatfields. The story made national headlines. The governor of Kentucky sent a militia led by Frank Phillips, the bad man of the tug. Phillips and his deputies crossed into West Virginia illegally and rounded up Hatfields. In a fierce shootout, they tracked down and killed Jim Vance. 9 other Hatfields were captured and returned to Kentucky for trial. The trial was a sensation. The case went to the United States Supreme Court. All 9 were found guilty. 7 received life sentences. Ellison Cotton Top Mounts was hanged, the only official execution. Fighting slowly died down as leaders aged. In 2003, descendants of both families signed a formal truce.